If you haven't been able to tell by listening to our podcast, which you should be doing, Rushdown Radio on any platform you like, if you haven't been able to tell, I like dark video games. You give me something dark and gritty and edgy, I'll definitely play it. Even more so if it's something like a retro kind of Castlevania style game, or metroidvania, however you want to classify it, or roguelike, or something different than the other grim dark stuff you may see in the AAA market. And I will play it. So it was a no-brainer that I would play the first Blasphemous game and fall in love with it. From the macabre imagery to the gorgeous pixel art to the gameplay loop to the exploration to the enemy variety to the boss, I could sing Blasphemous 1's praises for this entire review. But we're not here to talk about the first one. We're here to talk about the second one, and if it continues that level of quality that the first one started. So, let's talk about it.
Let's start with the story, since that's the easiest thing to cover with this game. Without spoiling the first game in case you haven't played it, which you should, I don't know how the second game came to happen. But it did, and now your job is to stop the miracle from birthing a baby over the city with the blessed name. Why is the name blessed? That's not important. What's important is that the miracle is added again, and you are here to relieve the people of the miracle and the womb that's hovering over the city. Pretty simple, pretty basic stuff. But as you go into the city and you get to talk to the people, they have other little subplots telling you about their life story, like the blind sculptor who's making his last statue, or the giant woman who sells you other sculptures and other items that you may need. The city has a lot going on, and it pays to revisit it whenever you have a chance when you're not dungeon crawling. Sometimes you'll have a quest item that a character needs that'll help you with your builds, we'll get to that. Or it'll be something that's just a little bit of lore. Maybe you have an item that'll make you have more health, maybe you have something that'll give you more power. It always pays to kind of check in on the NPCs and just see what's going on with them. This game has a pretty good habit of rewarding you for just talking to people you may have spoken to before, just to see what happens. So be sure to talk to everybody, you won't regret it. By far the biggest change in Blasphemous 2 is easily the gameplay. Before, you kind of just had one sword and some spells to just hack and slash your way through the game with a parry, and it was cool. Like, I had no problems playing through the game like that. But now this game says, what if you had 3 weapons? For the sake of the review, I will start referring to these weapons as the flail, the rapier, and the cleaver. You'll know what I'm talking about as you watch the footage. Now, you can start with whichever one you want. I don't think it matters too much. I mean, it will with environmental puzzles, but you'll eventually have all 3. So at the start, pick which one's your favorite. The flail, it's big, it's slow, but the range and the power more than make up for it. Plus, you can ignite it and get some nice fire damage. The cleaver, to put it simply, you're playing Blasphemous 1 if you choose the cleaver. You get your parry, you get your airdrop, and it just feels like you're playing the first game all over again, which is not a dig at it. Some people really like that familiarity. I use it every now and again, but if you want to know, my favorite is the flail, which leaves the rapier, which is my least favorite. It's fast, it does some pretty small damage, but in return, you hit a lot with it. My only gripe with it is that it doesn't hit low enemies. Its range isn't as great as you would think for it. It's not my favorite. For people who like to hit fast and kind of just dodge out of the way, because at the start the block isn't as good, but if you kind of just like to have the fastest weapon in the room, that's who that's for. Me personally, I don't mind slow weapons. If it hurts, especially when it comes to some of these boss fights, as long as it hurts, it works. Now, I also said that these are used for traversal. Throughout the maps, you'll see 3 main puzzles. You'll see a giant bell just kind of hanging around. You'll see what I can only describe as pillars of flesh. And you'll see mirrors that are pointing in certain directions. The rapier is so you can travel through the mirrors. The flail is so that you can hit the bell and reveal either an open door or some platforms. And the walls of flesh are so you can drop through them with the cleaver. Like I said, you'll have all 3, so you can just kind of change on the fly which one you'll need for which traversal. That's also something to note. Each weapon can be changed freely. Even if you want to do it mid-combo, you can just change it however you like. And as if that weren't enough, each weapon has its own skill tree, where you can just add on more attacks for combos, give your parry a little bit more bite, boost your elemental damage, etc. In regards to weapons, the game kind of just gives you the toys to play with and says, here, build your Penitent One however you feel like. Just know that you'll eventually have to use all of these, at least for getting around the map. 2 other additions that have been made that really change the way combat works is the Marks of Martyrdom and the wooden statues that you get from the blind sculptor that I mentioned earlier. Now, the Marks of Martyrdom, pretty easy to explain. You get them from beating bosses, you get them from killing enemies, and you can even find some out on the map. You'll need these to upgrade your weapons and to upgrade your equipment slots for the sculptor. As for the sculptor, he can create new wooden dolls. He can even expand your slots, but for each slot you open up, you're gonna have to pay more Marks of Martyrdom, which don't come as easy as you would like, but not at such a pace where it's completely annoying. More slots means you can slot in more wooden statues. More wooden statues means that you can create the character you want. Do you want to be an all-out offensive type? You can do that. Do you want to kind of have a mix of defense and offense? You can do that. I wouldn't go all in on defense because despite that, these enemies can definitely hurt when they want to. Sometimes you'll get lucky with an enemy that kind of just scratches you for a little bit of health. Other times you can get smacked really hard. In my personal opinion, I found that going all in on offense seems to work best for me. So I made a build where I maximize my fire output, maximize the damage in the flail, and just watch enemies melt every time I smack them upside the head with the flail, which is so satisfying. I enjoy these new additions. It keeps the game from feeling like all you're doing is hacking and slashing. And it's not exactly something you have to dig into. You'll eventually kind of just slide into your favorite weapon and use that for most of the game, but that's okay. I haven't found that elemental damage is that important, except for lightning seems to stun enemies more and fire does do a little bit more damage, but it's not something I think is very critical. It's something that you can experiment with. Again, this is just my findings. Some people may find that going through this entire game with the rapier electric weapons is the best way to play. I do like that it gives you that choice. Any game with more choices is a good thing. I think the place where these choices matter the most are the boss battles. They're just as big and explosive and as difficult as you remember. The only thing that I would say about them is that sometimes it can feel a little long and damage spongy, but I mean, they're bosses, so I suppose that's, par for the course. And I say difficult, but realistically, you'll die maybe 3 or 4 times to the boss, learn the pattern, and then you'll be off to the races. I never found myself too frustrated with any boss fight where I was just kind of ready to throw my controller and go, I hate this boss fight. I think they're all pretty fun. I think they're all pretty cool to look at. They're all kind of a spectacle in their own way. And it is always cathartic to get that last blow of victory. Get the red silhouette as you kill your enemy. It's still as good as it's always been. I'll talk about a last few bit of changes I found that I felt like I should mention to you. For one, if you were a person who really hated dying to spikes, rejoice. You no longer die immediately to spike damage. You take a nice chunk of health when you hit those spikes, but you don't immediately die. Thank the Lord, or the miracle as it were. This one's a bit of a nitpick, but I wish that they had put some way for you to be able to not grab the ledge, or if you grab the ledge, you can just kind of let go and drop down, because my goodness, his hand is a magnet for ledges. Are you just millimeters away from a ledge, he is going to grab it for dear life and not let go, which is helpful in some scenarios. But when I need to slide down the wall slowly and I can't let go because his hand is super glued to the ledge, that's a little annoying. Finally, if you recall how guilt works, when you die, you lose a chunk of your magic meter, your defense goes down, but you get extra tears, which is all well and good, because what you're supposed to be able to do is go back to where you died, pick up your guilt, and everything should be fine. That doesn't always happen here from what I've played. Sometimes you'll die to the same boss perhaps over and over. You'll go back and collect your guilt, but your bar will still have a chunk taken out of it. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, and all I had to do was go to the character that relieves you of your guilt for 1,000 tears, but I thought that was a little annoying that even though I went through the trouble of going to pick up my guilt, I still had some kind of lingering on me that I couldn't get rid of without having to pay. In the end, it does work out for reasons I won't spoil, but in the moment, it is a little annoying. Now, let's go through audio visual. What can I say? You've been watching the game as you've been listening to me talk. The game is gorgeous. The sprite work is amazing. I love this art style. I love how, despite it being sprite work, it's still expressive, it's still gruesome. It's beautiful, really. It's some of the best sprite work in the business. And as far as the music, it's beautiful. It really sets the mood that it wants to set. It took a while for me to be able to distinguish tracks with it, not that long. So I know when I'm in a certain area, I'm going to hear a certain song, and each song is just, it's chef's kiss. It's if I was in a brooding mood, or if I felt like I wanted to, I don't know, go to some dark church, this is the music I would play. It's pretty great. And voice acting is surprisingly good too. It wasn't bad in the last game, but it could be a little stiff in parts. This, I would go so far as to say it's campy, but in a good way, because this is really dramatic writing. The writing in this game is just, it's so serious, it's so dramatic. I can't really think of another word than dramatic, but the voice acting sells it. It was a joy just listening to some characters talk. When someone spoke with an authoritative tone, it made me sit up and go like, yes ma'am, yes sir. Or if I'm listening to the sad story of somebody, it made me feel a little sad. So shout out to the voice actors. They really did their thing on this game. If I had any gripe at all as far as how it sounded and how it looked, I missed the sprite work cutscenes. They went more for a hand-drawn thing, which still looks good. It still looks great. But when it came to those pixel art cutscenes, oh, you couldn't beat those. Those looked so good. Still, the hand-drawn ones still look great. I got nothing bad to say about them. I just missed the sprite work. If I were going to craft a Blasphemous 2 myself, then I would hope that it is only half as good as this game. I love this game. play Blasphemous 2. Go buy this game. I love this game so much. From how it feels to play, the artwork, the music, the voice acting that I could just listen to for hours. I may have a minor gripe, and I mean really minor gripe, but everything else about this game, I could sing its praises all day. Now, I played primarily, well, not even primarily, I played entirely on the Steam Deck. So, in case you were wondering if it plays on the Steam Deck, yes it does. Buttery smooth, not a problem. I played the first game on the Switch and it had a little hiccup here and there, but on the Steam Deck, not a single problem. No frame drops, no hitching, none of that. It just ran like butter. So, yeah, in case you were curious. So, I'm not sure how many more times I could say go play Blasphemous 2, but I'll say it one more time. Go play Blasphemous 2. Of course, when you're taking a break from that, check out our website, rushdownradio.net, and check us out on your favorite streaming platform as Rushdown Radio. And we will see you all later.
So remember, you're my arena. So like, comment, and subscribe.